Hi, my name is Ben Shepard and I'm the editor of Global ETF Profits. On December 12th, a judge with the Eastern District of Virginia invalidated a key provision of the health care reform laws. He basically ruled that the individual mandate is unconstitutional and that while the states may have the right to compel individual Americans to purchase health care insurance, there is no provision within the Constitution that would allow that same level of power for the federal government. So based on that, we're going to see the healthcare debate reemerge as the dominant topic in the U.S. media. Already we've seen some pretty decent movements in a lot of healthcare related funds, primarily moves to the upside. And a big reason for that is the individual mandate is basically the cornerstone of the health reform laws. A big provision that's been really popular with a lot of folks is would basically deny health insurers the right to deny coverage to an individual based on a pre-existing condition. Basically, the insurance companies were going to have to take everybody regardless. A lot of these sorts of provisions just aren't very feasible economically, though, if you're not spreading the burden of cost across all Americans. Another interesting quirk of legality there is the fact that most laws that Congress pass include something that a lot of folks call a continuity clause. Basically, it says if any provision of this law is invalidated, the rest of the law will stand as written. Oddly enough, the healthcare reform law did not include that clause, so the legal train of thought there is basically if the individual mandate is in fact struck down, basically the entire reform effort is going to more or less disappear. Regardless of where you stand on the politics of the issue, that's really improved the sentiment towards the healthcare industry as a whole here in the United States. My personal view has always been that with an individual mandate, the health reform laws could actually end up being very profitable, particularly for the health insurers, but really for the entire industry, because that would be a huge new pool of potential healthcare consumers. Now, whether or not you can be compelled to buy insurance, that's now up to the courts to decide. There isn't going to be a speedy resolution to this issue, though. There are similar lawsuits still pending in several states. Obviously, the ruling here in the Eastern District of Virginia is going to be appealed and find its way to the Supreme Court. It's kind of anybody's guess how they're going to fall on the issue, but based on the court's current composition, I suspect that they're going to uphold the Virginia court's ruling. That presents a huge opportunity in healthcare. In our portfolio, we already have the iShares S&P Global Healthcare ETF. The ticker on that is IXJ. It's been kind of sensitive to the healthcare debate here in the U.S., but only about a third of the revenues generated by that portfolio of companies is actually sourced here in North America. Most of the revenues are realized overseas. So that's provided it a fair level of insulation in terms of performance. We've actually seen it jump by about 2% just in the weeks since the judge handed down his initial ruling. I feel like just based on pure demographic trends, the aging of the planet, healthcare is really a really solid long-term secular bet. But a lot of folks are going to want to make a more targeted trade based on the potential repeal of healthcare reform. So if you fall into that camp, iShares Dow Jones U.S. Healthcare Providers ETF. The ticker on that is IHF. The portfolio is made up of managed care organizations like Aetna, WellPoint, Humana is in there. Those managed care providers make up about a third of the portfolio. The rest of the portfolio is made up of pharmacy benefits managers, hospital operators, companies in that kind of vein. We've already seen about a 3% move to the upside in that ETF since the ruling, but I strongly suspect there's going to be a lot more upside there, particularly as this issue continues to be played out in the media. While I'm not a constitutional or legal scholar, I've talked to several folks who are very knowledgeable about the issue, and right now the consensus in a large swath of the legal community seems to be that the individual mandate likely will not stand up to a constitutional challenge. So as we see a lot of the state's attorneys generals who have basically sued the federal government, arguing that the law is unconstitutional, as we see more news of their success in the courts, the Healthcare Providers Fund is only going to continue moving to the upside, and if and when the Supreme Court strikes the law down, there's just going to be a huge explosion there. So, that's not a 100% bet, but if you want to make a more leveraged trade based on the prospects of repeal, iShares Dow Jones U.S. Healthcare Providers Index, IHF, right now is about the most targeted vehicle that you could use to do that. Again, though, we do have the iShares S&P Global Healthcare Fund in the portfolio, IXJ, that will only benefit from more talk of repeal. It's just not going to move quite as dramatically as the Healthcare Providers Fund. Again, my name is Ben Shepard, and I'm the editor of Global ETF Profits.